Well, I woke up to go get me a cold pop, and then I thought somebody was barbecuing. I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Then I ran out. I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. I ran for my life. And then the smoke got me. I got bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Get ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is October 15th. It's a Wednesday. Is that, John, is that so happy it's Wednesday? Does that make any sense? S-W-I-A.
Yeah, it's shoe. It would be shoe.
That is John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. He is a conservative Republican. I am an American. And now just leave it at that. You know, John gets upset with me when I talk about his personal life, but I think this might help to get this out in the open, John. I think it might be.
Yeah, what's that? This will be good.
I think it might be cathartic for you and everyone involved. John has been, up until recently, dating Katy Perry. And
oh, yeah. Yeah, boy, there were times in her younger days I'd love to send her into space. You know what I'm saying?
John is
I made her see stars up against the headboard, but that's a different story.
Not going to touch that. John's most upset because Katy Perry has dropped John and is now dating the former, the premier prime minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. John, are you upset about this?
Is that a true story? Is she really hooking up with him?
Yes. You haven't seen this?
Wow, I did not see that, Brad.
Yes.
Wow, good for him. Good for him.
They're a thing. Matter of fact, there's a picture. Leave it to TMZ. Apparently, she has some fancy schmancy yacht or something like that. And there's a picture of them on the deck of the yacht embracing, and his hand is on her, shall we say, gluteus maximus. So,
oh, God. Remember when she had a little bit of softness to her? Like when she had long, beautiful brunette hair and she had a little thickness? You know what I'm saying? Like you could see a little dimpling on the back of her thigh. God, I love that.
You know, the crazy thing about it is, I think I've told this story before, but in an interview she did years ago with Barbara Walters, she came out and talked about how she had this very interesting family life. Her mom used to date Jimi Hendrix. Remember me talking about this? And her
Wow, I wonder what her mom considers dating.
Right. Well, I don't know. And her dad used to be a devotee of Dr. Timothy Leary. And you remember Dr. Timothy Leary, don't you remember?
Yeah, Deedum Tots, Brad. We've discussed this many times on the show. He was a big LSD advocate, and we always noted about the fact that Katy Perry grew up as essentially a church singer.
Yes, exactly.
But her dad was off doing LSD with Tim Leary.
Yes, and her first album was a gospel album, and her real name is Katy Hudson because of the fact they changed her name because they thought it would be too much of too close to Kate Hudson, the actress. So John's all upset because Katy has dumped him. And
I'm outraged. And remember, Brad, we have a lot of young men that listen to this show. She was never yours. It was just your turn.
John looks at life. Okay, John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T, spell it out. That's the reason I give it to you in letters, because of the fact you need to type that into your keyboard, put that into your smartphone, your tablet, whatever you use to access the internet, and put a John in front of it, a .com in the back. You have johncombest.com. Every single day for 24 years now, he puts together an extensive list of all the important stuff you should know going on in the state of Missouri. But what we do is, as they do in Kentucky, we distill it down to the three most important stories. We start out with this gentleman. Your name, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And we start with?
In third place.
If you're as confused as I am about the constant back and forth of abortion rulings, I have good news. You'll be more confused today. I think of it as what our friend Scott Fawn referred to it as last week, which is a tennis match. It's like watching a ping pong match. You get one court ruling that seems to be pro-choice, and then you get another ruling that seems to be pro-life or a lawsuit, and it's just a back and forth, a back and forth. And that's not even mentioning the ballot initiatives that are going to come on the ballot. But in the spirit of adding more confusion to our lives, I'll cite a piece from the Missouri Independent that posted yesterday. It's by Anna Sperry. Last week I noted that I didn't know how to pronounce Miss Sperry's last name, but I looked it up and I heard an introduction of her, and it actually is Sperry. You know, Brad, when you grow up with a last name that looks like Combest, you're pretty cognizant of pronunciation. Here's the headline. Missouri Appeals Court rules against Attorney General allows abortions to continue. And the subhead reads, arguments by former Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey that abortion regulations do not cause, quote, irreparable harm, unquote, to patients is, quote, disingenuous, an appeals court concluded. So follow me here, Brad, without getting too far into the minutia, because admittedly, I don't understand the minutia. There is a progressive judge in Jackson County in the Kansas City area that generally will rule in favor of the ACLU, the American Commie Lovers Union, and Planned Parenthood every time she gets a case. So with this appeal, the folks took, I shouldn't say the folks, gosh, I should be more specific. There was an appeal of the ruling by this progressive Asian gal judge, and an appeals court upheld that progressive's ruling. So as it stands today, there's the notion that Missouri should be able to enforce regulations that critics call onerous. It's things like you have to get 2 medical exams within 72 hours of each other, and other things that pro-choice people call restrictive. So the Kansas City lady essentially said, look, all that stuff is just too onerous. We got to get rid of that. And so now, Brad, the latest volley, the latest Perry, if you will, not Katy Perry, but the latest Perry in this abortion fight is that the pro-choice people won this particular battle. Now, curiously, in homage to Brad Hildebrand, to put a new angle on this story, and you and I aren't going to debate this, Brad. We've beaten this to death. I know how you feel about the abortion ballot petition. I went to ChatGPT, or more specifically, I went to Microsoft AI, and I said, who is Judge Jerry Zhang? I assumed that this woman would have been appointed by Jay Nixon, by a Democrat. But the AI results tell me that Governor Mike Parson appointed Jerry Zhang as a circuit judge on September 10th, 2021. Now, her connection to Jay Nixon is that Jay had elevated a guy named Mark Stiles Jr. to a circuit judgeship, and that allowed this gal to move up the ranks. She was appointed as a deputy probate commissioner to fill that vacancy. So, Brad, I gotta say, you know, I'm generally skeptical of AI results because I work with you and I see how you use them. So I generally look down on people who use AI now. But according to AI, Jerry Zhang had been appointed by Mike Parson to this position. That's kind of, frankly, that's kind of disappointing if you ask me.
John, don't you find it curious that we have judges who are supposed to be, Lady Justice who's got the blindfold on? The justices are supposed to be impartial, but yet they're not, because depending upon, like you look at the Supreme Court, depending upon their political bias is how they rule. Don't you find that interesting? Yeah,
I think so. And there's a lot of debate. There's the iconic Missouri plan, which was put in place to allegedly remove politics from judicial selection. And I think, there's some people that love the Missouri plan. There's some folks who oppose it. I'm not particularly an expert on that, Brad, I'm just a simple street hoodlum from Spanish Lake. But the Missouri plan is generally looked at nationwide as a model for allegedly taking politics out of the judicial selection process. So I'd also be remiss if I didn't point out that if you want another great overview of what's going on the ballot initiatives, what's going on with Prop A and minimum wage, and what's going on with redistricting, go to the midweek update yesterday by Scott Fawn, and GOP super attorney Marc Ellinger was on there. You'll recall that he was on Elijah Har's show in Springfield last week, and Elijah did a great job walking him through stuff. And Mark has even fresher updates on Scott's show yesterday.
We could talk about this at some other point in time, but the judge thing to me is and this whole abortion thing, John, you know where I stand on this. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
I do. And that's why, like I said, we're not going to beat that dead horse. And that's a great point, Brad. We're not going to beat that dead horse. I do know where you stand.
And mainly because of the fact we talked about this the other day. Isn't it like 55% of the abortions now are done by the pill?
I don't know, but you did cite that number. That's a great point that we discussed in detail last week.
Which is to the point where it's like, isn't this all almost a moot point? What if 100%?
Yeah, and that's the point that we discussed and beat to death last week. I agree with you, Brad.
Okay.
We did beat that to death last week.
But we beat it to death today?
But you know what? We're not going to beat to death. Story number 2.
John, I know you're still upset about the Katy Perry thing. I'm just trying to humor you a little bit.
I appreciate that, Brad.
Okay, number 2. Here we go.
Up a notch to number 2.
Hey, listen closely, ESE. You hear the musical stylings of Carlos Santana featuring Rob Thomas. Stop the looting, stop the shooting. Down on St. Louis state streets, it's just Senor Frito Bandito. That little ESE's got to eat. Headline from St. Louis Public Radio. St. Louis immigrant groups want people to start preparing for a potential, oh my gosh, influx of federal agents. This story is brought to us by content creator Andrea Y. Henderson. She is the race, identity, and culture reporter for St. Louis Public Radio. A bunch of immigrant activists and advocates got together in an unnamed gymnasium in South St. Louis on Monday to prepare for what they fear might be an influx of federal immigration incidents. Excuse me. I'm so excited about this next line that I can't even spit it out, Brad. By an influx of immigration agents. Here's the line from Miss Henderson. I hope you're sitting down. Residents who attended this meeting say they are terrified by the prospect. Terrified. There might be federal agents coming to St. Louis City to go after immigrants. So you could come to this event, Brad. Well, I don't think they'd let you in. But other people came to this event in an unnamed gym in South St. Louis. You don't want to say the name. You don't want a bunch of feds and narcs to come in. And they learn skills of what to do if you see Inmigración agents pulling people over, ESE. And they got some nice white woman who said she came to the town hall to learn more about what to do if she encounters immigration agents detaining people. And she could brainstorm with others about steps she can take to help prepare herself and her neighbors if they need to step in and help. Now, Brad, I'm going to stereotype here. Let's say you have a pudgy little white woman, maybe with a Karen haircut, that sees immigration agents pull over a pickup truck full of lawn workers. What's she going to do, Brad? Besides pull out her phone and say, I'm recording you. I'm recording you. They were just going to Schnucks to get another fresh batch of high fructose corn syrup sugary drinks. Arriba! Like, what are you going to do, Brad? Anyway, it makes people feel good. Now, I think as a Halloween stunt, it would probably be fun to cosplay as an ICE agent. Can you imagine standing in an ICE jacket outside the door with a clipboard, pretending that you're taking notes? That might actually get you injured. But anyway, Brad, another public interest story from St. Louis Public Radio. People are terrified of federal agents, Brad.
I have to turn my microphone back on. John, I don't know if you saw this or not, but there's a national news story about how Los Angeles County has declared a state of emergency. Have you seen this?
No. What's the state of emergency? There's so many ICE agents?
Yes, exactly. That's what it is. They've declared a state of emergency because of the federal agents that are infiltrating Los Angeles County, and because of this, which is interesting, I read the story earlier, because of this, that now makes aid available to certain people, wink, wink, nod, nod, for legal services because of the fact, among other things, they get. So in other words, the illegals can get legal service paid for by the state of California. And everybody wants...
Oh, that's nice, Brad. I mean, it's the government's job to protect illegal aliens, don't you think?
I don't know what the government's job is anymore. I've lost track of that. And that's number one, actually number two and number one, Brad's top three. How's this for billboarding? Okay, we ready for number one?
Yeah, let's do it, Brad.
The number one.
Hey, Brad Hildebrand gets on his station, which he owns. Unlike most radio station owners, Brad actually owns his station. Brad, you get on the station and you besmirch St. Louis Public Radio. You have the audacity to criticize them. And in fact, one of your attack points is that they never come to St. Charles County. Well, I hope you're ready to stand corrected. At your age, you rarely stand erected. But I hope you're ready to stand corrected, because Lucretia Wembley of St. Louis Public Radio, she's a general assignments reporter, traversed to St. Charles County. Oh, yeah, because State Representative Tricia Burns from Wentzville, who's been the tip of the spear, so to speak. Easy, Brad. She's been the tip of the spear on RECA, the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, hosted a town hall forum on Tuesday night, that's last night, at the St. Charles City County Library in St. Peters. And she hosted state, federal government officials to talk about how folks who have been adversely affected by radiation can continue to go about getting their benefits. Or if they've already started applying for them, learn the status of what's new, what's going on. Brad, the one nugget that I'll pull out of this, I know we're up against time. The one nugget I'll pull out is that in order to get your compensation, you have to prove that you lived in a certain area. You have to prove that you've had a diagnosis. There's a number of steps you have to take. And Miss Wembley in St. Louis Public Radio does a thorough job of outlining those things. But the one nugget I wanted to pull out for you, Brad, Miss Wembley writes, St. Charles County Executive Steve Ellman said as of Tuesday, nearly 400 people had already come to the county's Recorder of Deeds office seeking proof of residency. And Mr. Ellman says, people are going to need documents to show that they actually lived here at that time, that they contracted their disease. And we're going to try to make it as easy as we can for people to get that information. And this is a good time to point out, which I should have earlier, that this isn't just Coldwater Creek, but this is also the radiation at the Superfund site in Weldon Springs. So that explains the St. Charles element to it. Anyway, Miss Wembley has some powerful quotes from Tricia Burns. Tricia said that she got involved in politics because her kid had cancer at the age of 15. She says she swam in the quarry, went to Francis Howell, and that her husband and her both grew up in Coldwater Creek. So check it out. I have the link up today, Brad.
John, can I make a comment here? And I'm going to be critical of Steve Ellman, okay?
Yeah, please do.
You, I think there was a quote in there. You said he's going to try to make things easier for people.
Yeah. All they need to do is take over St. Charles City Hall.
No, this goofy thing, St. Louis County did it first. Now St. Charles County did it because of the stupid COVID thing. You go to the government office building there on 2nd Street, and you have to type your name into the stupid iPad, and then it tells you, okay, somebody will come down and talk to you in 10 minutes. You used to be able to get on the elevator, punch the button, I believe for the 3rd floor, because I've been in the Recorder of Deeds in St. Charles County many times. But you can't do that anymore. You have to sit in the lobby and wait for somebody to come down in the elevator. Steve Ellman, throw those iPads out on the street, make it to the point where people want to come to the Recorder of Deeds office or any of the offices in that building where the elevator is, where you can punch a floor and go to that office and walk to the desk where that person sits. That would make it easier. It's screwed up. It's a mess. And I was there recently, and one of the nice people took me up. I was actually looking up some stuff in the Recorder of Deeds office, and I made this comment to the person, and she says, we love it because nobody comes and bothers us anymore.
Yeah, that's the benefit of it, Brad. And I think there is a compromise. I think that they could get rid of the iPads, allow people to roam freely, as long as they had facial ID that told them when Brad Hildebrand was there.
Right. Now, John, I'm going to tell you something you're not going to believe. When you started your first number one just a few minutes ago, I had my microphone off. And on my phone, a call came in, and the caller ID said, Michael Beard Pulley. He called me.
Oh, nice. Very nice, Brad.
And I picked up the
phone.
phone.
And at 8:01 when we're off the air, because I got to go right at 8 o'clock. At 8:01 when we're off the air, you can choose to give him a call back. He missed his shot on this show.
So you're saying we don't call him back?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And Brad, we have, when we set boundaries, and for folks who are just joining us, Michael Burton flaked on an interview that he had scheduled with us, and then, essentially because he texted Brad and said he was hungover. Brad, it's awesome if you call him at 8:01, but the thing about setting boundaries is you have to stick to your boundaries. And for all the things that he put us through 2 weeks ago, like we're done with that drama. We've moved on. So great, Brad. You can give him a call at 8:01. That'd be awesome.
And now you've heard it from John Combest. He had this talk with Katy Perry, and he gave her the boundaries. And essentially, she said, "Well, I guess I'm just going to move on to Justin Trudeau." And John said, "So be it."
Yeah, and you know what? Once they enter perimenopause, Brad, I know that wasn't a thing back in your day, but once they enter perimenopause, then it's just a lot of, well, don't get me started on that.
John is the woman's best friend. He'd never say anything bad about a woman. Okay, we got to take a break.